What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Billions Season 4 After Show, where tonight we are talking puppy cover-ups, Sunday pancakes, and not the good kind of pancakes, and the impact of scheming. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Woo! I'm so excited to let the buzz be in tonight. What an episode! How much fun! Welcome everyone to the After Show for Billions. Wow, am I excited? I am your host, Nadine, Della, Pelle, and with me is the lovely
ReGina co-hosting.
Hey, ladies' night.
Yeah.
Kevin, we miss you. He will be back very shortly. We hope. I think next week. I think he's coming back. So,
well, we hope so. We surely miss him.
We do miss him. Wow. So, what did you think of this episode?
Well, I want the real Wendy Rhoades to, stand up.
Well, the real Wendy Rhoades stand up. Yeah.
Like, hello, Wendy. Who are you?
Where is she gone? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I said in the beginning of the season that I thought Wendy was going through some type of emotional transition or change. And now it's really starting to come full circle. I mean, I saw Wendy that was willing to get her hands really dirty for Axe and really just go after Taylor in such a bold, cold way.
Yeah.
And then you see Wendy in her marriage, and she's pretty much pulling the rug out from under Chuck and saying she's going to sell the house. Mm-hmm. And then her relationship with McPhee. And so who is Wendy now? And then, of course, with everything that's been going on with Wendy, there's got to be a breaking point. And so I think we saw that.
Tonight, it was a kind of Wendy-themed episode in a sense. And I think the biggest theme to take away from this is that revenge isn't always sweet. Sometimes revenge can actually be bitter and can actually tug at your heartstrings. So we will definitely dive into that. But some exciting news for this episode tonight.
Yes.
We have an amazing interview coming up for our special segment later on in the show with Andrew Polk, who plays Freddie Eisen, the lawyer that helps Chuck get out of a lot of these sticky situations that he finds himself in. We saw Eisen's character this episode a couple of times with everything that happened during what I like to call the puppy cover-up, because it's the nice way of talking about an animal dying.
We all love our puppies.
I know. I call every dog, even if they're old, like 14 years old, a puppy.
Yeah.
So I call the puppy cover-up. We see Andrew Polk's character a lot during that. So stay tuned later on. Once we're done reviewing this episode, we are going to be Skyping him. He is being so gracious with his time. He's coming to us from New York, so it's late there at night.
He's staying up for us.
Staying up for us. So we can get, hopefully, the inside scoop on something to come later
on. We're going to try and pull it out of him.
So that'll be later. But first, let us talk about this puppy cover-up that we like to talk about. So Chuck gets this call in the middle of the night, as we saw, from Brogan, the guy who he helped get this concealed carry permit for. And I knew somehow this was going to bite him in the butt. Like when we were discussing this a couple episodes back when this was all going down. And sure as heck it does. And Brogan actually refers to Chuck as, "You're my Michael Clayton." So ReGina, what does that mean? What is that reference about?
"You're my Michael Clayton" is based on a movie called Michael Clayton that starred the gorgeous George Clooney.
The handsome devil.
Yeah, he was an attorney that pretty much would do just about anything to help his clients out. It could be really shady, of course. And so that's definitely the reference for Michael Clayton. He was a lawyer that represented a lot of corrupt people, in particular this movie, which is a great movie. I recommend it. He had a corrupt client that was so corrupt, he pretty much just drove himself crazy.
Oh man, but he was corrupt himself. So the reference is, it's not a good reference then that Brogan's making to Chuck, that "you're my Michael Clayton," meaning, hey, you can get some shady stuff done for a shady person like me.
There's an old saying that I always would hear growing up, that birds of a feather flock together. So yeah, most of the time when you get corrupt folks, They
Yeah.
have, the people with them are pretty much the same.
That's what Mama always told me too. So Chuck is now having to deal with this whole situation, the deceased puppy with a bullet in him. So he meets with the police commissioner, and this was it was just, you get to see the police commissioner at home, just still running things even while he's making his eggs and his
Eating
breakfast.
out of his frying pan.
Yeah, eating out of the skillet on his desk, just like a New York boss, like you would expect him to act. And basically is like, hey, this is your issue, nothing to do with me anymore. My name is on the permit. I signed it off. So if I get involved, then some bigger backlash can come back at me. So no, this is your problem to handle and your problem to fix, which every episode we see Chuck having to deal with one problem or another, trying to get himself or other people out of situations. And this is when we see Mr. Andrew Polk, his as Freddie Eisen. He goes into Chuck's office to basically help with this whole deal of paying off the neighbor $100,000 in order to silence him, so it doesn't get out that Chuck had anything to do with this concealed carry weapon permit, because if that got out that a dog died based off of the shady acts that Chuck did, that's another negative thing to add on to his already negative list of traits and work drama, I guess you would say.
Chuck is great about covering his bases right away and saying, here's a lawyer's card, give him a call. So it's his lawyer, right?
Yeah.
So he knows how they deal.
Yep, how they deal. And then the neighbor gets a little greedy, as we see a lot of people in any of these situations get greedy, and tries to ask for $250,000, not $100,000 anymore. So like literally almost tripled the asking price to keep his silence.
After he signed the agreement.
But the whole thing was, it was all planned. Just like everything we see in the show, everyone is working 10 steps ahead of the other person without them even knowing. So the whole thing with Freddie Eisen was that he was going to be the witness in front of Chuck, knowing that this guy was trying to extort the Attorney General of New York for more money for a cover-up story. Yeah, dude, no, not going to work, ever going to happen. So it was just an interesting scene of, Chuck basically having to cover up for shady stuff he has done and how it's going to bite him in the behind again. So my question to you is, do we eventually think that all these backdoor deals are going to do the same thing that this gun permit did, where he's going to have to just keep cleaning up after them?
Well, when you have so many different people that are involved, that you're helping out and that you're doing these little misdeeds for on the side.
Yeah.
It can't help but snowball after some point in time because you can't control everybody and you can't control everybody's situation. I mean, who knew this guy would be sitting at home drinking or whatever and having an argument with his wife, and then here's a knock at the door, and then all of a sudden he just, I'm a man, so
I'm going to kill
boom.
this. Yeah, he was drunk with a gun. That was the issue. So do you think that Chuck should have given him the gun back at the end? Or do you think it would have caused more issues if Chuck didn't give him the gun back?
It's his gun.
Yeah.
But you heard what Chuck told him. If you get into another problem with this, lose my number.
Don't call me.
Don't call me.
And we see that Chuck was basically made out by the neighbor because of the security cameras. And that's the thing these days. It's like, you are caught on camera everywhere. Your footprint digitally, and it's so much easier to be caught than it is to be hidden than it was back in the 80s 90s before all this technology.
Maybe back then you could kind of lie your way out of something, but if you're caught on camera and they have you, forget it.
Yeah, and everyone has cameras now outside their house. So, Chuck, come on, think a little smarter next time, bud. But that wasn't the only shady thing that Chuck was up to this episode. We see when he gets the call from Papa Rhoades to do another backdoor deal to help speed up the banking process. Basically, Papa Rhoades, I like to call him Papa Rhoades. I like to make the names a little bit more fun. Papa Rhoades calls and says that he has a financial snag with that the banks want too much collateral. So he wants Chuck to reach out to any of his contacts to see if he can get favorable terms to help him out. Womp womp. You know who's listening on the other end?
Yes.
Brian and the FBI. And it's just, and we didn't see a lot of them this episode. We didn't see, that's basically the only scene we really saw of Brian just kind of like yes, we got it. Like, I think we saw 2 scenes of him just
with
listening to what's going on. But it's just the slow, just check, there's another one, check, there's another one.
Yeah.
And this is going to pile up into a massive case. So they're little by little getting evidence. So do we think that Chuck and his dad have any idea that Brian is listening in the FBI, or no? Like, is it one of those scenarios which we've just talked about where is Chuck 2 steps ahead and actually knows they're listening, or is he completely blindsided by it because he does end up getting the deal for his father?
I think before anything really hits the fan, for Brian to get the up on Chuck altogether, I think Chuck is going to be tipped off. And I think Kate is going to tip him off. For some reason.
You think, you were saying that last
I think
time.
she's working both ends of the stick. I think
she wants to help Chuck out.
She wants to help herself out, and so she's trying to see. It's like the best man wins, and she's going to be on the winning side. Remember,
so you think she's a flip-flopper?
Oh,
Not just for
yeah.
justice, just
Oh,
flip.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
So
Kate's got the shady end for
well,
ReGina
we'll
here.
See.
And then someone else who's just wanting to pin stuff on Chuck and doesn't like Chuck, obviously we know, is Jock. And so we see this very weird, interesting scene, the urinal scene with Jock and the Secretary of Treasury, Todd Krakow, there, and the height difference. And just, just kind of the directing and layout of that scene was kind of beautifully awkward and beautifully weird. And it just really showed the powerful, like the power that Jock has and the manliness that he has and his stature and all of that, just
intimidating,
very much so, over someone who is actually higher power than he is technically. And so I just thought it was an interesting bathroom scene, but he basically tells Todd that he's a target for Chuck Rhoades, that Chuck Rhoades knows what's been happening in the Cayman Islands. And so, hey, watch your back, basically. But it wasn't just a friendly thing. He wants to stir up stuff. He wants Todd to now go after Chuck because, you know, Jock as well as Brian will do anything under their power to be able to get rid of Chuck by any means necessary. So this is just another ploy. I think this whole episode is about different schemes to get what people want, right?
Yes, like trying to stay ahead of the game. I'm going to up you, one up on you.
Yeah. And everyone is scheming. And then Todd meets with Bobby to be like, hey, we have a common enemy now. You know, this is great. Let's work together. Let's wage war together. And Bobby plays him like a fiddle. Because perfect, because Bobby wants to get contacts with Robert Beaufort, I think is how you say, from Bureau of Industry and Security, which we'll see play out later on with Taylor. And we'll talk about that. But he's able to get this introduction through Krakow, and then all of a sudden is able to switch on him because when he sets the meeting up, Chuck is actually there. And so Chuck surprises Todd, and he's found out that Bobby and Chuck are now working together. Which is kind of crazy. So my question to you is, what's going to happen when word gets out that Chuck and Bobby are actually on the same side? And do you think it's going to get out?
Get out as far as what?
Like the public starting to know, because right now everyone knows that they have beef with each other, that, you know, that Chuck's biggest thing was going against Bobby. But now if Chuck is being seen playing friendly with Bobby, are people going to suspect Bobby by any means being involved with helping him get elected? All that stuff. Is that where the unraveling is going to happen?
They definitely need to keep things under wrap because Chuck is a public official, elected.
No, for sure.
And sure, I mean, one trail leads to another, so they definitely have to be cautious, and they can't afford to have any slips or anything come out where the other is implicated.
Well, because this was a big thing. This is the first time we really see that, hey, no, you're wrong. We're not at war anymore. And we're telling a pretty top guy in the government of what's happened. That, hey, no, we're working together. We're buddies, and I'm setting you up, basically. And here you go. And so I wonder, what deal do you think they're making? What's the deal that's happening between Todd and Chuck? Because Bobby leaves the room. And so we weren't able to see, but I think we'll see what happens play out later on.
Well, the title of the episode tonight was Infinite Game.
You are right, Infinite Game.
It's
just a constant game.
Going to end.
Yep.
And the thing that I thought about too tonight, besides Bobby having Chuck locked down, he's really got Wendy locked down. So it's like he's the third person in their marriage. She was talking about his dad. No, Bobby Axe is the threat to that marriage.
I think Bobby
He's
was the threat. I don't know if he is anymore.
He's got both of them. So if something goes wrong with one or the other and they go against Axe.
Yeah, I think we already saw that storyline play out, though. I think what's happening more so now is the three of them. They are working together, but in a way of, as we see with Wendy later on, she's like, wait, what am I doing? I think now they're all starting to question the relationship a little, but I don't think it's like that they're all against each other right now. I think
Not
it's more
yet.
questioning of, hey, because we saw with Chuck being like, hey, how many more favors am I do for you, Bobby? And then Wendy, now we see with everything that happened with Taylor, which trust me, guys, we'll get into. At the end, she's rethinking what she did to Taylor. So I think the relationships will be questioned for sure. But a relationship that's not questioned is our love with you guys, the fans. And ReGina, would you like to speak on that, please?
Well, we just want to thank you all for supporting us here at AfterBuzz TV, and we just appreciate you guys tuning into our shows. And we would love for you to continue that support by going on iTunes and giving us a 5-star rating. And also, you can subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And guys, we just love it when you comment on the show and give us the thumbs up. That just makes our job feel even, makes us just feel even better.
Oh, yeah, I go through and I hit like on your comments all the time. So
we do. We really enjoy that. So we just want you to keep supporting us here at AfterBuzz TV. We couldn't do it without you. And remember always, you guys are the stars.
Yeah, the stars. And so let's talk about now transition over to Bobby, because while Chuck is doing his own scheming, Bobby also is doing scheming this episode. Scheming is just the word of the episode.
I don't know how they sleep at night.
I know, right? I don't think they do. Or they just have like really expensive beds with really nice sheets.
He and Rebecca,
They're doing also like relationship goals. Like that was so cute. The scene of them doing work in bed together.
Yeah.
Like they look so cozy, comfy. Like they're both running like massive businesses and being super successful. And they're just hanging out in bed together talking.
And it looked like it was like 2 p.m.
Yeah, right? Well,
maybe it was 6 a.m.
I think when you get to their level, you get to make your own hours, right? I think you get to make your own hours. But let's talk about scheming plan number 1, what I like to call, with Bobby recruiting Rebecca to help with the whole Taylor revenge plot. So we get to go back to Bruno's Pizza Shop, which every time we're there, that pizza man looks so yummy and makes me crave pizza so badly, right? It's just like, I want some New York fresh, because I'm originally from New York and I miss pizza made in New York because the water and the bread, it is true. It tastes so good. Anyway, sorry, enough about New York.
We have to ask Andrew, I guess, is that a real pizza shop or just a set?
I think it's a set. I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll see if he knows, because I don't think he's ever filmed at the pizzeria there. I don't think we've seen any scenes with him there. But we'll see if he knows. That's a good question to ask him. So Wendy, Wags, Rebecca, and Bobby, they're there eating pizza and scheming. And basically, Bobby wants Rebecca to buy the tech from Douglas Mason. But I loved how Bobby was very upfront that, hey, I'm not just going to not tell you what's going on like he's done previously when he's asked for Rebecca's help. He's like, yeah, this is what's going on. You're going to help me basically with Taylor's revenge if you do decide to do this with me. So if Rebecca does succeed and get the company, then Bobby will buy it off of her for a profit, aka Bobby now controls Taylor's dad's company.
Right.
Crazy sauce, right? But when this is presented to Taylor for $100 million, that's how much Rebecca was going to buy the company for. Taylor seemed like super skeptical. Sarah had to bring Taylor outside of the meeting and be like, hey, this could help everything. This could help everyone. This is an amazing deal. You got to do it. But Taylor says no, because Taylor wants their father to be in charge of the company still. So are we surprised in Taylor's actions of not taking the $100 million? What do you think?
No, I'm not surprised, because I felt like this was the first time that we've actually seen Taylor be a little more vulnerable and really want a relationship with her dad and her family. And she was willing to,
Remember, it's
they.
they.
Yes.
They were.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Sorry,
it's
guys.
difficult.
They was willing to put aside her own business sense to do something to help the father fulfill his lifelong dream.
Yeah, and I think more so that first plan that Bobby had with Rebecca was really just to test the water. I think what Wendy has been saying is that Taylor really emotionally wants a relationship and is giving back this info that, no, it's going to take something deeper than just money to win it over. And I think this was just kind of the evidence and the proof that no matter how much money, $100 million, which is a lot of money, is not going to work. And so that leads us into the scheming plan number 2, which we spoke about Robert Beaufort earlier, how Bobby wanted to meet with this guy. And we're like, who's this guy? Why do you want to meet with him? And we find out that this is the guy that Bobby wins over, who goes to Taylor's office and says basically, hey, gotta delay production, gotta halt it because it is vital to national security at this time that the tech that their father is developing has to do with national security, so it has to be halted. And if they're gonna fight it, it'll take 2 to 3 years in order to fight this and to win it back.
When you have intellectual property like that.
And when the government gets involved. And so Taylor immediately knows this was Bobby's doing, like has Bobby's fingerprints written all over it. And it's just basically, that's it. It's either how do we move on from this? It's one of the biggest blows.
Yeah.
And we see from this, we see the aftermath of the whole scheming squad in Bobby's office. We see Wags, we see Orrin, we see Hall, and we even see Wendy there kind of laughing and talking about how, I paid him basically Beaufort with women and money, and that's how I was able to get this done, and they're all joking. And I found it interesting that Wendy she was a part of that. We never really see her a part of that laughing and scheming. And so we see her still in the thick of it, not how we ended the episode with her, but this middle part of Wendy was kind of like loving it and loving that they were really hurting Taylor that much.
Yeah, it was so surprising.
So what did you think that was with Wendy laughing it up with the boys? Do you think that it was just still this new old Wendy?
I think it's a lot of things all put into one. I think a lot of her hurt from her situation with Chuck, for one, has a lot to do with it, where she's trying to take a lot of the attention off of her as the Wendy we know, the therapist or the people at AXCAP, or that face that she feels like the public persona has seen her put on after the scandal broke with Chuck. I think that she's just trying to project her emotions into another arena, because I was trying to figure out, why is she so hell-bent on helping him destroy Taylor?
I think she's putting her revenge and anger about her own personal life into something else, manifesting it into something else. And I think at the end we see with the breakdown that she has that she's realizing, what the heck did I just do? I get why we hate Taylor, but to go to this extent, and we'll dive deep into that when we talk about the talks very soon with Taylor and Wendy, but it's more of a psychological thing and a manipulation that had happened. And I think that's why Wendy got so emotional at the end.
And it's her
used her powers for wrongdoing, in a sense.
Maffei.
Yeah. We'll dive into Maffei. Quickly, Gavin Reagan in the chat says that Rebecca and Bobby, they sleep on a big pile of money. That's how they sleep. And that is most likely right.
I'm not mad at them. So
yeah, a lot of money is made, I think 75% out of cotton, right? So it could be a little comfy.
Yeah, right.
That's what I'm trying to say
the
there.
more.
Right?
Yeah,
a little comfy.
right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
a little
nice
bendy.
cushion.
So thanks to that, Gavin. That made me crack up. And also, guys, please remember, we do have the chat up. I have it here, checking it out. So if you guys have any thoughts or ideas or anything you guys want to add to the conversation ReGina and I are having tonight, we'd love to hear it. We'd love to have more voices and more opinions in it. Even if you disagree, come on, let's duke it out. So let's see how Taylor is handling this. So basically the delay is come 2 to 3 years. So what is Taylor going to decide to do? So Taylor is immediately wants to meet with the board leader of the firefighters in order to keep him on, and says as soon to stay on and out of good faith, as soon as if the company ever goes negative, that they will the next day will immediately give their money back. That the firefighters have their money back. So it's basically, it's a riskless operation, basically. And basically he says no. He says, you're dealing with all this other stuff, and like if you get rid of that, then yeah, we'll stay on. If not, then we're leaving. And so Taylor's like, okay, you're leaving. And remember, we had just saw that. We saw how much Taylor fought to get that money, to help Taylor Mason Capital. Everything that money and that pension meant to the survival of the company.
Right, after Grigor.
Completely said, okay, bye. Like, didn't even blink, didn't even think about that. And that's why we're seeing this, like, this emotional undertaking that Taylor's having about relationships with their father and how important that is, that they're giving up everything else in order to help that thrive. And so basically all these investors are kind of, they're scared that these investors are going to leave and pull their product. And Sarah basically says that you have to make both work or none of it will. So what do you think about that advice that Sarah gave?
Sarah's really been like the best thing that has happened to Taylor.
And you've said that since the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she is so smart, and she doesn't tend to get emotional when she is making a decision or helping Taylor. They, right?
Yep, they or them.
To see things clearly. I like the fact that she will say, look at it this way, look at it that way.
Yeah.
You need to make a decision.
Yeah, the voice of reason, basically.
She's the voice of reason, definitely. So she's very valuable
to Taylor.
Mason.
Yeah, but then someone who, was giving advice to Taylor that wasn't good advice is Wendy. And so we see two Taylor-Wendy meetings in this episode. And the first one is going furniture shopping for Taylor's parents. And by the way, I love furniture shopping. It's like one of my favorite things. I just love even window shopping for furniture.
Tedious.
But it's also just like beautiful to kind of imagine yourself this and then walk out and don't buy anything. That's what I do. I don't know. Or just go to open houses and I'm like, I imagine myself living here. And then I don't buy that house.
One day.
One day, right? So they're going furniture shopping for Taylor's parents, which is a personal thing too for two people who are supposed to be rivals and enemies, right? And I think we broke down those barriers last week when we saw them open up more to each other, or at least Taylor be honest and open up about what they're going through. So for Wendy to go furniture shopping with Taylor is a very personal thing, to let someone into your intimate life, especially when your relationship with your parents isn't that good. So you're asking advice for what furniture to get and how to make it special from Wendy, right?
Told Wendy she loved her taste.
Oh yeah,
that
exactly.
Her taste would be.
So it's a personal thing, very personal thing, and basically Wendy talks about and just plays with Taylor's mind so well on a psychological level.
Yes.
Talks about the hardships and responsibility of basically having your family live close to you, what those obligations mean now. And Taylor's response is basically like, well, I just see it as a fresh start and I'm excited for it and I really want it to work. So do we feel, because I know we're supposed to feel like Taylor is the enemy this entire season, right? But I started, especially this episode, to have so much compassion and empathy for Taylor, even though Taylor did wrong to one of our favorite characters, Bobby, right? I felt a lot of empathy for them this episode. Do you think that we have the right to have empathy for Taylor or no?
I didn't like the viciousness.
From before that Taylor did?
The viciousness of Wendy.
Oh, of Wendy. Okay,
doing Bobby's
dirty work.
Yeah,
but with Taylor, though, do you think that we should have empathy for what Taylor's going through?
Not much.
Right?
Taylor can handle, can handle herself.
Yeah.
And not so much.
Yeah, I'm torn because we're supposed to like hate this character, like this villain, this villainous character, but yet we're supposed to love them as well. But like now I feel just because of Wendy's tactics this episode, I just feel sorry for Taylor that Taylor got caught up in the web, I think.
But Taylor is a very compassionate person. and really does have a very caring heart. For her to even, or they, to reach out to Wendy after the big embarrassment with Chuck said so much. It spoke volumes because, let's face it, the people that were at Axe Cap, not one of them, and we talked about this in previous shows, not one of them, when that happened, she was at work, and not one of them rushed to the elevator to say, here's a tissue, or are you okay?
Yeah.
Can I walk you to your car? Or anything like that. So both of the women have, or they and Wendy, have great positive attributes as women. And so that's why I was just shocked at how Bobby unleashed her like an attack dog.
Wendy.
Yeah.
I think Wendy unleashed herself, though. I don't think it was really Bobby unleashing Wendy.
She was willing, though.
Yeah, because Wendy was going through all this stuff happening, and like we've said, like she was using this moment of revenge to take revenge out on Chuck in a way. You know what I mean? She wasn't able to understand how to handle stuff at home. And we see that we'll talk about that soon, but we see that with her putting the house up for sale, that she just doesn't know what's going on anymore at home. So she's been taking it all out on work and revenge against Taylor, who may have been not really deserving all of that from Wendy's side.
Yeah.
In a way. Let me know if you guys disagree with
Channeling her
exactly.
anger.
So then we see the second meeting that the two of them have is at Taylor's father's apartment, and now all the furniture is there. And Wendy basically comes in and plays like this sad puppy in a sense, and says that Axe knows that Taylor lost the firefighter money and support, and knows that the firefighters were the air support protecting the rest of their ventures. So now they're open. They're open to basically being hit on all ends. And so and Wendy says to Taylor that he knows you chose your father over business. So right there is playing on Taylor. And this was the biggest thing. She kept reiterating the whole time that this is something Axe would never do. And as we know, Taylor has, as much as Taylor hates Axe, has looked up to Axe and wanting to be
his
like
protege.
Axe. Yeah. And so when Wendy says this is something Axe would never do, every line is crafted and perfectly played out to get into Taylor's mind about the situation and what is happening. And she tells Taylor that she's impressed that Taylor can be happy with enough, and how they didn't let the fact that their father exploited your need for his approval to stop you from choosing family first. And like, wow, how deep and crazy is all that getting into Taylor's mind?
But it didn't work like she thought it would.
Yeah, so is Wendy going in there to play not only on the emotional, personal level, but also on the competitive side of Taylor, right? With how she relates to Axe.
Well, let's face it. I mean, she is the person that Axe sent to finish Taylor off. But I think, everything that she said to Taylor backfired, because Taylor has learned from being at Axe Capital and learned from Wendy. And I think she flipped it and threw it back in her lap, because it made her think about it, and she had to pull herself back. That, I am being like this, and this isn't what I was trained to do, and this isn't what Axe would do. And I'm putting my family ahead of my good business sense.
Well, yeah, so that's my question is, do we think that Wendy got made on purpose, right? So do we think that because Wendy goes deep and says, I'm thinking about quitting. I've never seen Axe like this. This is all too much. And basically Taylor says, and I quote, "Nope, fuck.
Yeah.
You're not here to warn me. I trained myself to recognize when someone has overplayed their hand, and you just did."
She knew.
And that immediately. And you know that Wendy knows that that's going to come when you say, I'm going to quit. And it's like, no, Wendy, you've been there through so much stuff. There's no way that you're going to quit, right? And Wendy just doesn't even stand up and say, you're wrong,
or whatever.
All Wendy goes is, I hope your parents are happy here, which is another just knife into the back, basically, of like, hey, think about it, getting into the brain of, are your parents really here for the right reasons? Is this really good stuff? And you get Taylor's mind churning. And then the end of that scene, they waited, they stayed a while on Taylor's face. And I've never seen that anger and just so upset, because Taylor was so vulnerable with Wendy on so many levels and really thought that they were becoming friends in a sense. And like, Taylor had no one else to talk to about this. And Wendy's a professional. And
she got played.
Yeah. And so my thing is that I think Wendy got made on purpose. I think it's a whole thing, because we knew that eventually,
I agree with that.
Eventually this is what would lead Taylor to ending everything with their father. But do we think that Wendy took things too far in this scene to manipulate the brain?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And it's not okay.
No, I don't think it's okay at all for anybody to do that to anyone. But, and I have to say, there's a thing called karma. And we'll get into predictions.
We'll get into the karma and predictions.
Can't wait to get into predictions.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So in the chat, Angela Hardwick says Wendy's hurting, which completely I agree with.
We've
There is
always
so
said
much
that.
pain, and we see that come the end of the episode, which we'll dive into. And Jet Joy Sumpoa says, I'm not sorry for Taylor. Taylor reached out to Wendy to steal her away from Axe. Taylor also sabotaged Axe Cap before they left. And ain't that the truth? And that's why I was saying before, it's like, we're supposed to hate this person, but for whatever reason, I had such empathy and such compassion for Taylor's character this episode. And I think it was because of the underlying manipulation that Wendy did to Taylor, which just did not feel okay.
But Taylor's strong.
Taylor is strong.
She's
and
strong.
we'll see redemption and, like you're saying, the karma stuff. So let's chat quick about the impact that a lot of this had. So after this meeting with Wendy, Taylor ends up going to their father, gives the dad a $1.3 million check as a settlement, basically, and pretended to get rid of his deal and says that, hey, we needed the firefighters' pension back. So, aka, we're just done and we have to dissolve this. And this was just a test to see what his true intentions were, because as we saw, he immediately got angry, got up, stormed to the elevator, was about to leave, and says that he's going to leave New York City because there was nothing left for him there.
And that was terrible.
AKA not her, AKA that she is worth nothing. And that was a massive test, because it's like, this is your child.
Yeah.
This is your child that you've supposedly built this whole relationship for. Your child who now is buying furniture and buying you a massive apartment and putting you above the company that they literally risked their entire life and career for to do, and now is pushing all of that aside. So was it actually not the worst thing that Taylor kind of had this happen with Wendy, that like Wendy was actually right? Was it actually not that bad to get to the underlying truth of it?
I think it was a blessing in disguise, because when Douglas first came to Taylor, I think episode 2, I predicted after that episode that he was going to distract Taylor and throw her off her game. And he almost did.
Yeah.
He almost did. But because Taylor, is so cunning herself and sharp, Wendy only pulled the veil off of everything.
Yeah,
and made her see the light.
Saw the light, because it could have continued to go on, and I know that it's supposed to benefit Axe
She could have
Cap.
ruined her.
It's supposed to benefit Wendy, but in the sense of it's destroying Taylor's relationship with their father and not giving more money to Taylor's company. But at the end of the day, Taylor wasn't in it for the money or for the long game. Taylor was in it to build a relationship.
She wanted her family back.
Yeah, exactly.
She was excited.
Completely excited about it. And we see Mafee basically say, hey, no, this was my fault that Wendy knows. And Taylor's like, no, it's my fault. And it's this whole sense of understanding that, we just got played. And so this is when we see Mafee just completely storm into Axe Capital, which is such a powerful scene because, well, one, how the heck did he pass security? Come on, Axe Cap, has amazing security. And Mafee was never allowed there.
He's got contacts. The doorman
Come on.
still likes some
It was
security.
something. He gave him a sandwich or something. I don't know. That was just like, how the heck is he just able to storm into Axe Cap?
Exactly.
That's not true. Come on. And basically he calls Wendy a garbage person and says all these nasty things about Wendy, but we see Dollar Bill and we see a couple of the other employees just get into it with Mafee and stand up for Wendy. And Wendy has this protection of love and people there. They're like, oh, heck no, you don't hurt our golden lady, Wendy, right? But what we see there is the guilt on Wendy's face. There is just that all the words that Mafee has said finally hits her and impacts her heart and impacts everything where we see it physically on her face. What did you make of that?
It was a powerful scene.
Very
and
powerful.
He really let her have it. It was humiliating, almost to the point that she's worried about the other situation where Chuck humiliated her. Well, here is one of her patients, so to speak. Somebody
Ex-patients, I guess.
Or that she has given her professional advice to or what have you, and has the standard of where you should be in this company and what kind of person you should be. And he just ripped her apart and called her a monster and said that you're Buddha smile. You are nothing but a fake. And it just, he ripped into her, especially Mafee, because, she used to be able to twist him around her finger because she knew he had the hots for her.
Yeah, well, you can see how much love Mafee has for Taylor and how much respect. And we've seen it time and time again this episode where Mafee has defended Taylor. But I think it was that realization there in Wendy's face and mind that, like, oh my God, I used the stuff that I am trained to do, that literally every single day I do to help people out. I used it for wrong.
She
I used
crossed
it
the
in
line.
an unethical way.
Yes.
No matter, and that's the question is like, how far are you willing to go for revenge? And it's always been our question on this show is, what are these people willing to do? And it's pretty much everything. And we see Bobby come down, stand next to her. And he's like, well, looks like we hit the target. Completely kind of unfazed, kind of a little happy about it. And Wendy is just completely shook up, and which is just crazy. And so Wendy's dealing obviously with that happening at work, which is completely tearing her apart. And then we see the beginning part of why she's turned into who she has is because of everything that happened with Chuck. And so their home life is clearly not going well. We see in the beginning of the episode, she put their brownstone home on the market, which clearly bothered Chuck. Didn't tell him. Clearly bothered Chuck greatly. And he's all like, you didn't tell me about all this. And she's like, really? The house, which has not felt like a home in a long time, that you bring your dom to, that we all have to leave.
Which she agreed to.
That's the place. And he said, well, it's your idea. And she said, well, you didn't have to say yes to it. And that's what we were talking about last week was, even though she like kind of brought it up or like she said yes to it, you still don't take that. And that's the thing that he didn't learn, right? And I remember us talking about this last week. So Chuck decides to just tell this story about Sunday pancakes with his father and the impact his childhood has had. His father gets so mad and wipe everything off the table and yada, yada, yada. And what are your thoughts on that story? I mean, did you think it was a sympathy plea to get Wendy to kind of understand his childhood on a psychological level? Or do you think it was actually genuine that he's like, this is the reason why I have these issues? What do you think it was? It was a plea for her to not sell the house, or?
Yeah, of course. He wants to get his marriage. I think it's finally sinking in with him when she put the house up for sale or had a realtor come and, I think it's finally sinking in with him that it's not ending here. It keeps getting bigger as far as their problems. Now she wants to move out of this house that I love so much, and she didn't even tell me. So
it's like, how does it feel, Chuck?
Well,
and
the thing is, who knows what's next? If she sells the house, maybe she sells it and says, you're not coming with me and the kids.
Well, that's basically what it's like
Yeah.
insinuating, is that like if this house gets sold, it's kind of like maybe the dissolve of the marriage and relationship. So it's interesting that at the beginning of the show, he kind of convinces her with this story about the pancakes. So, okay, think about things. And then by the end, where we see the breakdown after Maffei has yelled at her in the office, we see her now crying on her run by the Brooklyn Bridge. That she's bawling her eyes out and has decided to officially sell the house, and buyers are coming to check the house out. And I think it's because she's hating the person that she's becoming, and we're seeing it more and more that this Wendy, I've been saying, we've been talking about it since the beginning of the season, and now it took till episode 7 that this Wendy is not the Wendy that we know, and I don't think it's the Wendy that she knows. And I think she has severe guilt for everything that has just happened with Taylor, and is now realizing that none of this has to do with Taylor, it has to do with everything at home. And selling the house at home is what she's been needing to do. Trying to figure out what to do with Chuck has been the underlying thing the whole time that she's kind of strayed away from.
Well, if she's done with Chuck, why didn't she just say, I'm leaving you, let's divorce?
I don't think 'cause they haven't talked yet. I think Wendy was just out there, and I think there's not much to say right now.
I don't think she has any intention of talking to him about what she's going to do, because I don't think she knows what she's going to do. I think it just comes at the moment of her, the anger boiling over in her. But when we get to predictions, we'll
chat a little bit more about it.
Expand on that.
Yeah, so it was a little deep. So let's get into the chat. You guys are going crazy in there. This is
That's
amazing.
Great. I love it.
So let me just chat a little bit about what's happening in the chat quick. And so Jet, I think I already read Jet's comment there, but Melanie Cagle says, I love Bobby, but kind of pulling for Team Mason now, with Wendy coming on board and making Chuck leave Mason alone too. That's a prediction there. And I think that's going towards what we were chatting about, of just like, now do we like Taylor? Are we like on Taylor's side because of the emotional turmoil that Wendy put them through?
Well, you know what? Taylor has a fan, an unlikely fan that could be an ally that could destroy Bobby. And we know who that is.
Yep.
Rebecca. When she said to him, wow, your protege is, something else, she was really impressed.
Oh, so you think that's going to be kind of because I was going to say, because I still wanted to chat about the whole Bruno pizza shop story, and we'll chat about this quick, and then we will jump on over to our amazing interview. Mr. Andrew Polk is waiting on the line for us, so let's just finish up the story quick and we'll chat. But with how Rebecca was so sweet with dealing with that whole Bruno shop pizzeria selling story, where Bobby wants him to basically stay. Going to Florida is not a good thing. Bruno wants to leave. And Rebecca puts it to light that, like, hey, this may not be what you would do. This is what he wants to do. And like, hey, think about it. And Rebecca has constantly been that person this season for him, of like kind of that like reason of light,
like Lara.
Truth.
Well,
Kind of like Lara was.
That. She would give him a lot of
good
advice,
But Rebecca's more genuine than I think Lara was. I don't know why. I loved Lara and I loved their relationship. I think there was a lot of deep craziness between the two, because it was such a long relationship and everything, of course. So it's interesting you say that about Rebecca, that maybe Rebecca's going to be the downfall. I don't know. I hope not, because I'm really rooting for them to win. So Spike Spiegel says, hell, Chuck, Axe, Taylor, all of them, you sometimes love them and hate them, but never do you feel like not caring, even if they are against each other. Pretty difficult to choose a side, but I'm Team Axe. Wow, that is so true. It's what we've been saying. It's like, you love them and you hate them, but it's like you're told to hate Taylor this whole season, but yet the empathy is there because these characters and the writing that these characters have done, the writers have done for these characters, has been tremendous.
They make them human, even though they are, sharks, so to speak.
Oh, yeah, completely. So I'd love to get Andrew on the phone if we are ready to have him. So please just let me know. And thank you guys so much for chatting tonight with us in the chat. Keep it going. And if you guys have any questions for Andrew, we are just getting him on the line now. Please comment in here and we will ask.
There he is.
Hello, Mr. Andrew Polk. Are you there?
Hey there.
Hey, what's
How
up?
are
How's it
you?
going? My name is Nadine, Della, Pelle, and I have ReGina Coles with me.
Hi.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I know it is super late in New York City. Are you in New York City, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for staying up for our AfterBuzz discussion. We just wrapped talking about this amazing, crazy season 7 episode, which you were featured in a lot. So my first question to you is, first of all, great job, by the way.
Yes.
Amazing. Love your character. But are you the type of actor who watches yourself on TV? Like, have you watched this episode tonight?
You know, I don't usually like watching myself, but I have seen some of it. I've seen this episode in ADR looping, and I've seen myself on Billions so far, and I'm pretty critical of myself, and I'm actually having a good time watching the work, which is really rare for me because I just can't. You know, it's hard to look at yourself.
Yeah, I know. I always find that interesting whenever I talk to actors about it. It's just you do the work, you put it in, and then you kind of just walk away from it, I guess.
Like, it is a weird thing, isn't it? But you know, it's funny because I was a huge fan of the show. And my wife and I were like obsessed with the show well before I was cast in it.
Oh, amazing.
And then all of a sudden you find yourself on the show that you've been obsessed with, and it's really strange.
Oh, of course. Now, did you hunt to get the role, or did it kind of just like come to you? Like your agent was like, "Hey, here, you want to audition for this?"
Yeah, it came to me.
Wow.
And it did just come to me and auditioned for it, and I luckily got it.
Great.
And now it's this recurring thing, and really, really loving being on it.
Well, you're doing an awesome job. And I was reading an article, an interview you did not too long ago, and you compared your character to Michael Cohen type of lawyer. And I was wondering because tonight's episode, Infinite Game, had a reference to Michael Clayton. So can you kind of compare the two and
who's your character more like, I guess?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, you need some kind of frame of reference when you're kind of dropping in and out of a show like this. And for me, and this is purely from me, the Michael Cohen thing worked because Rhoades calls on me to fix things that are, you know, maybe slightly out of the purview of a normal lawyer's job. And so it just made me think of Michael Cohen, and that's just totally my sort of coloring of what I'm doing there.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, like, do you relate to your character anyway on the show? But I'm assuming with that reference to Michael Cohen that you're going to say no to it, but I still want to ask you that question.
I mean, I think do I relate to Michael Cohen? I mean, I think I think the Michael Cohen thing it's part of it. I'm not playing like pure Michael Cohen.
Of course.
You know, Chuck, he likes to call on people who can fix things, who have specialties. And I think this guy, Freddie Eisen, has certain specialties where he's the smartest guy in the room at what he does.
Great.
And he can fix things that maybe other people can't fix.
Okay.
That's how I see it.
No, I think that is a great portrayal of that. And I think that anyone that comes into play, as we've seen with Chuck, has to do some of these shady backdoor deals, but it's kind of just known in a sense with that group that, yeah, that's what you're going to get involved with.
I kind of love that he just thinks, you know, how do I fix this crazy thing with the guy? And you think, Freddie Eisen, he'd be good.
Yeah, he's the guy. You know, he'll come up with a $100,000 scheme and, you know, and give him a new dog, new puppy for it. Yeah, it's all good.
So what's it like working with Paul Giamatti?
Oh, what an easy question. I mean, it is. He's such a delight. You know, he's so generous as an actor. I mean, a lot of times people are generous, but he is not only so talented, but kind. And, you know, when the cameras turn around on you, he's as present for you as he would be if the cameras were on him, if that makes any sense.
Amazing, of course.
It's just incredibly hardworking, kind, brilliant, great guy.
That's
I
awesome.
love working with him.
Yeah,
Great.
I can only imagine. And so is there any like behind the scenes scoop you can give us of what set is like of Billions, just kind of being there? Like, I'm so thrilled at what it must be like with all those personalities on set.
And great
So
actors.
funny. Well, I can't talk about future episodes, right?
No, just behind the scenes of filming from just in general. You don't have to go into specifics.
Well, I mean, the thing that struck me about, one of the things that struck me about Billions, even before I was on it, is the actors they get are so great, and these character actors that they bring in. And I'm so lucky I get to work with these amazing people. Like just in that scene, there's David Jacobson and David Aaron Baker and Paul Giamatti, and just to play with these guys, which I've been doing since I've been on there, has been great. And the other thing that, I mean, maybe too inside baseball, but the thing that really struck me is filming it. The way they film it technically is so unlike any show I've ever done.
Why is that? What's different about it?
They do not only do close-ups, but they do super close-ups, and they'll do super close-ups.
Oh, wow.
And they do coverage of every single angle. I mean, I did I think the last one I did was 411, episode 11 of this season. And I did this one scene. It took 14 hours because of the way they just did. But it really speaks to the style of the show. I mean, you see the show. It looks great.
Yeah, and that's why every scene is so impactful too.
Right, that's because of the way they shoot it. They get these really super close-up shots that I don't think I've ever done in any other show, and they edit the hell out of it in such a way that it has a lot of power, and everyone looks great, and everyone looks powerful. I don't know the technical exactly.
No,
how they
for
do
sure. No,
It works.
But yeah, I think that's why we always talk about how the writing is just so phenomenal that makes you love these characters and care so much. But it is also the camera work. And like even tonight we saw there was just this long shot on Taylor being so angry when Wendy confronts them about like, hey, yeah, basically I've been playing you this whole time. And we just see that lingering shot and you can really just feel the emotions oozing out. So is that kind of what you're talking about there?
Yeah, exactly. The filmmaking is brilliant, and the writing is so superior. It's just these guys are Brian and the whole staff there. They're just wonderful. They just they love actors. You can tell by the way they write.
Yeah.
It's so fun to play their words, and they know each character so well. It's a real pleasure.
Well, you do it right. You do the New York bad lawyer very good. So congrats on that.
So do you think you guys are going to be going into season 5?
I don't know.
No word yet?
That might be above my pay grade.
Yeah.
But I sure hope so. It sort of looks like it might, and I sure hope that I get to play with these guys should that happen. Freddie Eisen keeps fixing things.
Oh, I think there's going to be enough shady stuff Chuck will get involved with that. I think your character has a little bit of job security there, for sure.
You might have to hire your own lawyer, though. You know how that goes. The lawyers are hiring lawyers now. So.
Pretty much so.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
If you could emulate one character from the show in real life, whom would it be? From anyone on the Billions show, who would it be?
Oh God, that's hard because everyone's so real. But God, that's a tough one. You want to think about who really shines as like a kind of a moral good person, and then you struggle.
And we used to think it was Wendy, and as we've been talking about all night tonight, Wendy has completely changed course in a sense. So it's not really moral high Wendy anymore.
Like what Wendy are we dealing with?
People are learning from each other on how, and that's what's so brilliant about the show. It's this brilliant depiction of this world of finance and the hunger everyone has for power.
Oh, completely.
So this is.
I seem to be skirting your question because. You're.
I think it's more of a cherry pick, huh?
I would like maybe a mixture between Maffei. I love Maffei. Who doesn't love that guy? And maybe if Axe had a little Maffei in him.
Yeah, you just take the goods from everyone, right?
Can I do that?
Yeah, we can make a super character. I think that's great. And then maybe Brian Koppelman will write it in one episode. Who knows?
Okay, Brian, you hear that?
Yeah, right? Write it in, please.
Yeah.
So I know you're a very successful Tony Award-winning Broadway actor. You just came off of Broadway.
Amazing.
Yes, I did.
Congratulations on that. Yeah, it just wrapped a couple weeks ago, right?
And
just a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
I just reintroduced myself to my children.
Oh gosh. Okay. So
They're
I
like,
guess-
Dad, hello, Dad? Is that you there?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what is it like preparing for that transition when you're on a live stage every night and then you're going to a TV movie set and
I know. It's really
film
funny.
set?
I did a lot of it. I was lucky enough to, during the run of the band's visit on Broadway, I was shooting 4 different shows
Wow.
that I was recurring on. And it is very different. I actually have a kind of a funny story. I was doing Mrs. Maisel and
Love that show, by the way, and you're incredible on that as well. I'm like super fan of that.
the first thank you. The first episode I did, I was not given as much flexibility to miss a show if I was filming too late because it was right before the Tony Awards. So they had to get me out. And we had a wonderful director, Scott Ellis, who was also a theater guy. And he saw that at the end of the scene I was in, I had to sit down. And he thought, well, just in case we're running late, let's change your exit to you leaving the deli. And sure enough, they started running late, and I was about to miss my curtain. And he said, you know what? We're going to shoot the scene and then just leave the deli. And I did. I just shot the scene. I left the deli, got in a car, and went to my show. I just kept going.
You just literally left the deli and kept going on the character.
TV nerds out there, you ever wonder why I just leave? I'm actually going to my show.
You're actually going somewhere. Oh my!
Going to your
your
night
that's
job.
an example of the kind of thing that I did, and it's like it's like living the dream. You're doing TV and theater, but the dream is exhausting. The dream is very tiring, but it was what a dream to be in a show like that and then be able to do these wonderful TV shows during the day.
Yeah, they say that's like a high class problem, right? Having to go from one amazing set to another.
No.
I love that. That's great. And I'm sure, just the transition you had to do in the car ride to get into the different characters' mind.
Yeah.
Is that what you had to do? Is just very quickly, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, doing the band's visit, which I have been doing for like the better part of 2.5 years, is more like a muscle that kicks in, and it's a whole different muscle because you're really reaching 1,000 people live every night, and film work is so different. You really have to kind of bring down the energy and focus and relax in a totally different way.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you definitely put it all out there on camera and on stage, so congrats on that. And I think final question for you tonight is, what can we expect in store from your character for the rest of this season? I know you can't give too much hints, but if there's anything overall, we would love to know. He's like, I'm struggling. You guys keep asking me
You
this.
can't give away too much.
I know.
I don't like. I still want to keep working on brilliant.
And
All
we
right.
want you to.
I had to try. I understand we were going to get nothing. You can't hurt me, hate me for trying.
I end up doing a very, very funny thing with a bunch of mugs that these character actors that we do this thing that I swear it could be its own show. It could be its own show. Right?
Well, hey, there's
You
YouTube.
never
We
know.
could put it up there.
I don't want to give away any plot details, but again, it's in the vein of getting some problems fixed that only
And
guys
then what
can fix.
And then what about you in real life? What can we expect to see from you for the rest of the year? What else are you working on this year?
I was just working on this show called City on a Hill, which is a new Showtime show.
Yeah.
With Kevin Bacon. Recurring on that one.
Amazing.
And then Maisel is continuing. I'm actually started filming season 3.
Yay! That makes me so happy.
and also in the summer, another show I've been doing that I love called Instinct with Alan Cumming on CBS, where I'm the coroner. And the show's about serial murder, so I actually am quite busy on that show.
That's got to be really interesting.
And it's really a funny show and quirky show, and that's coming out. So that's some of the stuff that I've been working on.
That's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of
That's
stuff.
a lot.
So next time I see you running out of a deli to Maisel, I assume you're going to go on stage or to become a coroner over a dead body somewhere. So thank you so much for joining us and for coming on and staying on late for us. You are very talented, amazing. We're so lucky and fortunate to have you here.
Thank you so much. We enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah.
Talking with you. Thank you.
So have a good rest of your night.
Yeah, keep up the great work.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right. Talk soon. Bye.
Take care.
All right. That was
great.
amazing. What an what an amazing interview. Thank you guys so much for watching with us. I think quickly, let's get into some predictions.
Well, predictions. Ooh, I've got to get my prediction hat
There's
on
our music.
after
We're
that.
waiting for our
Here we
music.
go.
I don't think we can do predictions without lights and without that amazing VO there.
Yeah, that was
also, just still, he was so great, so genuine, so nice. He's working on so much stuff. I'm so happy that he was able to do that for us. We're really going to try and get some more of the actors on to talk with us. I know they can't dive into a lot of secrets. I tried twice there, okay? You tried and I tried.
Yeah.
To kind of get him to say
It was
something.
so much fun talking with him.
Yeah.
And he was so open and, you know, about his career and things that
What a
he
good
was
guy.
doing with his character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on again.
Yeah.
If you're continuing watching, okay. So AfterBuzz predictions.
Oh, okay. So here's the prediction hat after all that excitement. So I'm predicting that Taylor is coming for Wendy.
Ooh.
I don't know how, when, what.
So Taylor's not
she's
going to take
gonna
it
do.
lightly. What happened?
Oh, the
No.
look that you saw on her face. They have just amped everything up. She's coming not for only Wendy, but even more of a force for Axe.
Oh.
So that's my prediction. And also, Wendy and Chuck, they're going to get closer because she needs her husband now. She had a breakdown.
Oh, so you think, oh, wow. See, that's going to be the opposite. Great predictions. My prediction is a little opposite. I think that this is really the distance between Wendy and Chuck. I think there's going to be just craziness. I think Wendy's finally coming to her core of trying to understand everything that's happened the past couple episodes of Chuck betraying her in public and now doing this really shady thing against someone who didn't really deserve that. And now realizing, as we see with the breakdown of her by the river, just how deep and intense of what she's doing has affected her deeply. So I think there's going to be a lot of turmoil actually between Wendy and Chuck. And then I think this still isn't going to be enough for Bobby. I think Bobby still wants Mason Cap to be destroyed even more. Yeah. And I don't think this was the final revenge plot for him. Gavin Reagan says Wendy does seem to be in a weak spot for Axe. And BDog02 says, first show that I actually felt sorry for Taylor and how conflicted they were and want their father's acceptance. I am in total agreement. What is that? That word, agreeal. I'm going crazy now. So that's a lot to happen.
That's millennial translator.
Yeah.
We need Kevin here for that one.
For that one. Yeah, agreeal. So that was the episode, guys. And that was the amazing interview. Thank you all so much for watching, for sticking with us. I know this was a long after show tonight, but there was lots to cover, so we had to do it. Please keep the conversation going throughout the week, as you guys do in the comments. Please give us that 5-star rating on iTunes. Hit that subscribe button, that like button if you'd like. Where can they find you this week, ReGina?
Well, actually, I've gotten some new fans on Instagram, ReGina Cole. So keep them coming, guys. I love it.
Keep watching
some
ReGina
new
stuff.
followers.
And you guys can follow me and watch me at Nadine Della on Instagram and everywhere else where there's social media platforms.
Okay.
Thank you guys again, and I hope you guys have a lovely week. Take care.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.